The sound of metal slammed through my ears. Clang, clang. The heavy iron door locked shut behind me. For a second I couldn't breathe. The thick smell of sweat, bleach, and fear filled the air. My heart raced as I looked around. I was inside Rikers Island, one of the most dangerous jails in America. The guard's voice echoed, "Welcome to Rikers, kid. Hope you survive your first night." I froze. In front of me, men with tattoos covering their necks stared like wolves seeing fresh meat. One of them grinned, showing a gold tooth. "New fish," he said, cracking his knuckles. My stomach turned. I'd only seen places like this in movies. Now I was in one. The noise of inmates shouting, the banging on metal bars, and the smell of stale food made it feel like another world. I wanted to shout, "This is a mistake." But deep down, I knew it wouldn't matter. Before I could take another step, a big man with a scar running across his cheek walked up to me. His voice was low and rough. "You better watch where you sleep tonight, rookie." He pushed my shoulder and laughed as the others joined in. The guards didn't care. They just walked away. That was when I realized I was truly on my own. And then, just as I tried to move to my cell, a loud scream came from the next block. A fight broke out, trays flying, fists swinging, and someone shouting, "He's got a shank!" The whole place exploded into chaos. I ducked behind the bars, shaking, as sirens blared and guards ran past me with batons drawn. Someone's blood sprayed across the wall. I couldn't see who it was. All I knew was that I had just stepped into a nightmare. But how did I end up here? It all started 2 weeks ago. I was just a regular 19-year-old kid from the Bronx named Jayden Miller. I wasn't a bad guy. At least, that's what I used to tell myself. I lived with my mom and little sister Nia. We didn't have much, but Mom we worked hard to keep food on the table. I worked part-time at a gas station, saving up to start college. But life in the Bronx wasn't easy. Every corner had someone hustling, and every night had sirens in the distance. Then one night, everything changed. My best friend, Trey, came by with a plan. "It's just one quick job," he said, grinning. "In and out, easy money." I hesitated, but he made it sound simple. He said we'd only scare a guy who owed him cash. No weapons, no one gets hurt. Just a little push to get the money. But that night went wrong fast. The man we were supposed to scare pulled out a gun. Trey panicked. There was shouting, running, and in the confusion, the man hit his head on a table and went down hard. He wasn't moving. When the cops came, Trey ran. I froze. They found me standing there. Now, 2 weeks later, I was standing inside Rikers Island with a cell number instead of a name. As the guards shouted, "Lock down," and the lights flickered, I felt someone's eyes on me again. I turned. The man with the scar was watching from across the block, smiling coldly. Then the cell next to mine burst open and someone yelled, "New kid's in trouble tonight." The lights went out. And that was when I heard footsteps coming closer. Darkness swallowed the cell block. The only light came from a flickering bulb far down the hall. My heart pounded like a drum as those footsteps got closer. I could barely breathe. Somewhere behind me, someone whispered, "Stay still, rookie." I didn't know who said it. I just froze. The sound of heavy boots stopped right outside my cell. Then a deep voice growled, "You're in my bed." Before I could answer, the door rattled. A massive figure stepped into the faint light. It was the same man with the scar on his cheek. He grinned. "You think you can just walk in here and take my spot?" I stammered. "I didn't know. They told me." He didn't let me finish. He grabbed me by the collar and slammed me against the bars. My head hit the metal hard. I felt dizzy. The few inmates watching started to chant, "Fight! Fight! Fight!" Then, out of nowhere, a voice shouted, "Break it up!" Guards rushed in, swinging batons. The man with the scar backed away slowly, smirking. "Next time, no guards to save you," he said before walking off. My body shook, but I tried to hide it. I didn't want anyone to see I was scared. Later that night, the guards forced everyone back into their cells. I sat on my thin mattress, staring at the ceiling, my ears still ringing. I kept thinking about home, about my mom crying in court when the judge said Rikers Island, about Nia, who probably didn't understand where her big brother had gone. I told myself I'd keep my head down and stay out of trouble, but deep down I already knew that wasn't possible here. The next morning the door slid open and a guard shouted, "Breakfast!" The smell of cold eggs and soggy toast hit my nose. I grabbed my tray and sat alone. Across the room, the man with the scar, everyone called him Reaper, watched me again. I tried to ignore him, but it felt like his eyes were cutting through me. Then another inmate. Skinny guy with braids sat across from me. "You knew?" he asked quietly. "Yeah," I muttered. He nodded. "Name's Malik. You need to be careful, bro. Reaper runs this block. Don't cross him. Don't even look at him too long." I nodded again, trying to act calm. Malik leaned closer. "If you want to survive in here, you need allies. Don't trust the guards. They'll leave you hanging. Stick with the right people, stay in your lane, and never ever show fear." I wanted to ask him how long he'd been here, but before I could, the alarm went off, loud and sharp. Guards rushed in again, shouting, "Everybody down!" Trays crashed, inmates yelled, and the room turned wild. I dropped to the floor, covering my head. From the corner of my eye, I saw Reaper grab a fork and lunge at another inmate. The guards screamed, "Weapon! Weapon!" Everything happened in seconds. Reaper tackled the man to the ground, punching him again and again. The guards pulled him off, blood dripping from his hands. As they dragged him away, Reaper's eyes locked on mine once more. He smiled, that same cold smile. "You're next, rookie," he hissed. The guards slammed the door behind him, taking him to solitary. My whole body trembled. Malik whispered, "Now you're on his list. You better pray he doesn't come back soon." That night I couldn't sleep. The sounds of shouting and metal clanging echoed through the block. Every shadow looked like danger waiting to happen. Then, sometime past midnight, I heard a loud bang. The hallway filled with yelling. A voice shouted, "Reaper's back from solitary!" My heart stopped. Then came another sound. Slow, steady footsteps, heading straight toward my cell. The sound of those footsteps grew louder, echoing off the concrete walls like thunder. I sat up on my bunk, my hands shaking. My throat felt dry, and my mind kept repeating one thing. Reaper's coming. The guard on duty didn't even look up as Reaper walked back into the block. Everyone went quiet. You could feel the tension in the air. He looked different now, calmer, but more dangerous. His knuckles were still bruised from the fight earlier. When his eyes met mine, he didn't say a word. He just smiled, slow and chilling. "Lights out in 5 minutes," the guard yelled. I tried to act like I didn't notice him. I lay down and turned toward the wall, pretending to sleep. But I could hear him laughing softly, like he was planning something. The lights went off. Darkness again. I heard whispers, shuffling, and then silence. For a moment I thought maybe it was over. Maybe he'd leave me alone. But then my cell door creaked. I froze. It was locked. At least it was supposed to be. A shadow slipped inside. "Hey, rookie," Reaper whispered. "Miss me?" Before I could move, he grabbed me by the shirt and pinned me against the wall. His breath smelled like cigarettes and anger. "You looked at me the wrong way, boy. In Rikers, that's a problem." "Please," I managed to say, my voice cracking. "I don't want trouble." He chuckled. "Trouble found you." Then, clang, the lights suddenly came back on. A loud siren wailed. Reaper jumped back, glaring. Guards were running toward the cell. Someone must have hit the emergency button. "Next time," he growled. "No alarms." The guards stormed in, shouting, "What's going on in here?" Reaper raised his hands, smiling innocently. "Just welcoming the new guy, officer." The guard shoved him out and locked the door. My knees were weak. I slid down the wall, breathing hard. Malik came up to the bars of his cell across from mine and whoa. He said, "You gotta move blocks, man. Reaper won't stop until he breaks you." The next morning I begged a guard to transfer me. He just laughed. "You'll be fine, kid. Learn how this place works." That day I was assigned to kitchen duty, washing trays, scrubbing floors. It wasn't much, but it got me out of the block for a few hours. Malik was there too. "Keep your head low," he said while stacking dishes. "Kitchen's the safest place, for now." But safety didn't last long. Around lunchtime, one of the older inmates slipped something into Malik's pocket. I didn't see what it was until a guard came over, shouting, "Contraband! Search him!" They pulled out a small blade. Malik's eyes went wide. "That's not mine!" he yelled, but it didn't matter. The guards dragged him out kicking, yelling that he'd go to solitary. I knew right away it was a setup, and only one man in this block was cruel enough to do it. Reaper. By the time I got back to the cell that night, Reaper was waiting in the hallway again, his face calm, like nothing had happened. He leaned against the bars and said, "Told you, rookie. Everyone pays their dues in Rikers. Yours is coming soon." Then he walked off, laughing. That night, as I sat alone in the dark, I heard whispers coming from the far end of the block. Quiet voices, plotting. One said, "Tomorrow in the yard." Another answered, "We handle him there." They didn't say who him was, but I already knew, and when I heard the guard shout, "Yard time!" the next morning my stomach twisted. Because Reaper was already standing there, waiting, his eyes locked on me and something shiny hidden in his hand. The cold wind hit my face as I stepped into the yard. It smelled like metal and sweat, a mix of fear and anger hanging in the air. The yard was huge, surrounded by tall fences topped with razor wire that glimmered in the sun. Everywhere I looked, men were watching. Some were lifting weights, others walking in small groups, whispering. And then there was him. Reaper stood near the basketball court, his hands in his pockets, a small grin on his face. He looked calm, too calm, the kind of calm that comes right before a storm. My heart pounded so loud I could hear it. I tried to stay close to the wall, away from him, but his eyes followed me. "Yo, rookie!" he shouted. "Didn't think you'd show." Everyone turned. The yard went quiet. Even the guards by the fence stopped talking. Reaper started walking toward me. Slow, steady steps. My hands were shaking, but I didn't move. I knew running would only make me look weak. When he got close, he leaned in and whispered, "Time to finish what we started." Then I saw it, a piece of sharpened metal glinting in his hand. My stomach dropped. Before I could think, Reaper swung. I ducked, and the blade missed my face by inches. Chaos exploded around us, inmates shouting, guards yelling, everyone rushing away. I tried to run, but Reaper grabbed my shirt and punched me hard in the stomach. The air flew out of my lungs. I fell to the ground, gasping. He raised the shank again, shouting, "You should have stayed quiet." And then, crack, a sound like thunder. Reaper froze, eyes wide. A guard had fired a warning shot into the air. "Everybody down," he yelled. Reaper hesitated, then turned back to me, breathing hard. "This ain't over," he hissed. But before he could move, 4 guards tackled him to the ground, pinning him down. The shank slid across the concrete and stopped near my shoe. They dragged him away, kicking and cursing, his voice echoing through the yard. "You're a dead man, rookie. You hear me? Dead!" My legs felt weak. I dropped to my knees, trying to catch my breath. The guard helped me up, muttering, "You're lucky, kid. Real lucky." After that day, everything changed. The other inmates started treating me differently, some with respect, others with silence. Malik came back from solitary a week later, bruised but alive. "Heard what happened in the yard," he said quietly. "You earned your stripes now." I didn't feel proud, though, just tired. Tired of watching my back, tired of the noise, tired of wondering if Reaper would find a way out of solitary. Days passed, then weeks. I kept my head down, worked kitchen duty, and stayed away from trouble. But every night when the lights went out and the block went quiet, I could still hear Reaper's voice in my head. "You're a dead man, rookie." One morning, as I was mopping the hallway, a guard walked by and said, "Pack up, Miller, you got a visitor." My heart skipped. Mom? Maybe she finally came. But when I walked into the visiting room, I froze. Sitting on the other side of the glass wasn't my mom. It was a man in a gray suit wearing dark glasses. He leaned forward and said softly, "Jayden Miller, right? I've been watching your case. I think we can make a deal, but you have to trust me." I blinked, confused. "Who are you?" He smiled. "Let's just say someone who wants to get you out of Rikers." Before I could answer, the guard tapped his watch. "Time's up." The man slipped a small card under the glass. "Keep this safe. I'll be in touch." And as I walked back to my cell, holding that card in my hand, one thought ran through my mind. Maybe this nightmare isn't over. Maybe it's just beginning.